Welcome into the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I'm Tim McMaster. The Hall of Fame Classic is coming up this weekend at Doubleday Field in Cooperstown. And, of course, in July the 26th, the class of 2015 will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So fitting that we have Tom Glavine, a 2014 Hall of Fame member, joining us in the Chatting Cage. Tom, thanks a lot for taking the time.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right, and fans, you know how this works. You can get us your questions via Twitter. Use the hashtag #ChattingCage or press that red button at the bottom of your screen. Get in line and ask your own question of the Hall of Famer, Tom Glavine. Tom, we're going to start on Twitter, and we start with Beast92. He wants to know, who's your favorite current Major League Baseball star?
Oh, man, there's so many great ones in the game today. I think being in Atlanta, watching mostly Braves games, I certainly get spoiled watching Andrelton Simmons play shortstop every night. He's been fun to watch and certainly an extremely dynamic player, particularly defensively. And then, still being having that pitching blood in me, I think anytime I get a chance to watch Matt Harvey or Clayton Kershaw or Baumgartner or one of those guys pitch, I usually try and take the opportunity to do that.
All right, we're going to stay on Twitter, and Shorty Shortstop 00 wants to know, what's been the coolest thing to happen to you since you were inducted into Cooperstown?
That's a good question. I guess maybe my recent trip to Dubai with a bunch of other former American athletes to play in a golf tournament over there. That was an opportunity that certainly arose from the Hall of Fame, and it was a great trip, something I probably would have never otherwise done. So that's probably tops right now. Yeah,
and funny that your biggest memory now is golf. That's fitting, right? After retirement,
yeah, right.
You get a lot of those rounds in.
Exactly.
All right, we have a fan joining us on the line now, Tom. If you can just tell us your name, where you're from, and go ahead with your question for Tom Glavine.
My question for you is, what were some of your pregame routines or superstitions on days that you would start?
I prefer to call it a routine, not so much superstition. But, I had to try to eat the same meal, some kind of pasta the night before I pitched and then the afternoon that I pitched. And then as far as the routine was concerned, it was more getting to the ballpark and then kind of getting in that mode of getting prepared. So it was, getting in the trainer room, getting my ankles taped, getting the heat pack on my shoulder, elbow, maybe sneaking a little 10 or 15-minute nap there while I was kind of doing all that. And then, usually went outside, right around, if it was a 7:10 start, say 6:40 or somewhere in that range, and kind of went through the routine of playing catch and my warm-up pitches. I think my bullpen routine was more of a superstition in terms of the sequence and how I went about it and mixing all my pitches in kind of thing. But, I don't think I had anything as crazy as Wade Boggs used to do, but I did have a plan, and I didn't vary from my plan very often.
And carb loading, always very important for all athletes, I know.
Yeah.
This is the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. You can get in line, press that red button. You can ask a question of Tom Glavine, and we have a fan on the line right now. Go ahead and tell us your name, where you're from, and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Adine. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut. I'm wondering if you have any former Braves players who you're still friends with.
Yeah, a little bit. I think certainly John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, Pete Smith, who I played with in Atlanta, still one of my closest friends. So those are the guys that I keep in touch with mostly. And I run into a lot of the guys in the Atlanta area from time to time that were, if guys are having charity golf tournaments or things like that. But those would be the guys. Jay Howell as well, another former teammate that I see quite a bit in Atlanta, playing golf with him and stuff like that. So those are the main guys. It gets a little bit hard when you're done playing because everybody's from somewhere and they go back to where they're from and they're raising families. So those days of playing golf with those guys every day are over, unfortunately.
Tom, you mentioned John Smoltz, and that's a perfect transition into our next Twitter question. Billy Cash 34 wants to know how excited you are to this summer see former teammate John Smoltz go into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, you went in with former teammate Greg Maddux and also your manager Bobby Cox.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Certainly after last year, having gone through induction, I think the one thing that every guy told me last year from the Hall of Fame was, wait till you come back the following year and you can relax and not having to go through all the madness, so to speak, of your induction. So I certainly was looking forward to that. And then the fact that Smoltzy's going to go in is going to be icing on the cake, to be able to come back that first time as a member of the Hall of Fame and see my first induction from that standpoint. To have my former teammate and close friend John Smoltz go in it's going to be a lot of fun to come back for that.
Tom Glavine with us in the chatting cage. He was a 2014 Hall of Famer, talking about John Smoltz, who we'll see head to Cooperstown this summer. He's at Doubleday Field in Cooperstown right now. We welcome in another fan, and if you could just tell us your name, where you're from, and go ahead with your question for Tom.
Sure. My name's Derek, and I'm from Chicago, and I was just wondering, you had such a long career. What's your fondest memory from your playing days?
Oh man, there's a few of them obviously that you remember and stick out. I mean, the day I got called up, that certainly is a phone call I'll never forget. That first start in Houston, as bad as it went, still was significant in that it was, the fulfillment of a dream to play in the big league. So those things obviously, and then further into my career, certainly the World Series championship was a huge memory. Winning my 300th game there at Wrigley Field is a day that I certainly will never forget. So there's a lot. I was fortunate to play on so many great teams, to experience a lot of winning seasons and things of that nature. So I had a lot of them, but those would probably be the ones I think that I remember the most. Yeah, definitely neat stuff. All right, Tom, we're going to go back to Twitter now. We're going to head back to Massachusetts for you. Noah Quet wants to know, hi, Tom, I'm from Billerica, and I just wondered, did you ever think you could make it to the MLB as a kid? Yeah, probably not. I mean, look, I was no different than any other kid growing up. I wanted to be, being from Boston, I wanted to play for the Red Sox or the Bruins. I didn't care which team wanted me. I wanted to play for one of them, so I didn't care. And being a two-sport athlete, that was kind of my thing. I just wanted a chance to play for one of them, and I had my dreams, and I had my fantasies in the yard playing wiffle ball, envisioning, being in the 7th game of the World Series and all those things. And I was just fortunate that I had an opportunity to live out that dream. That's why I say that opportunity to play professionally, ultimately pitch in the big leagues. You talk about a dream come true. I mean, it was. Now, can I sit here and tell you that I honestly thought it was going to happen? No, I didn't. I mean, it was a wild dream, just like it is for any kid, really. But that's the beauty of the whole situation is, sometimes our wildest dreams do come true, and certainly in my case it did, and it will for so many other kids that are growing up right now.
This is the Edward Jones chatting cage. Tom Glavine joining us from Doubleday Field in Cooperstown. And we have another fan getting ready to get on the line and joined by that fan now. If you can just tell us your name, where you're from, and go ahead with your question for Tom.
Tom, my name is Pete. I'm from Wayne, New Jersey. And my question for you is, if in a few words you can sum up the 2006 season with the Mets, and or who was your closest teammate on the Mets?
Well, that was a great season. Obviously, we had a lot of fun, and one out away or one run away from getting to the World Series. But it was a ton of fun playing up there in New York. I had a blast. And as far as my closest teammates, certainly some of the guys in Atlanta, Smoltzy and Maddox would be a couple of the guys. Pete Smith up there in New York. I love being teammates with Billy Wagner, Paul LaDuca. Cliff Floyd, those are all guys that, I still keep in touch with to this day, and certainly David Wright. I was at the tail end when David came up, but it's been fun watching him and still keep in touch with him as well.
All right, Tom, another question from Twitter. George Sharp wants to know, on this Memorial Day weekend, is there a specific moment that stands out to you during your career when you had a chance to honor a member of the military?
God, that's a great question, but not that I know of. I think that certainly over the course of, the last 10 years or so, that appreciation for our military and our veterans and what they do has come to the forefront, and I think it's something that I wish we would have done more of when I was a player. I know a lot of the ballparks now have nights where they honor the veterans and our military personnel, and I think it's a great thing. But, I don't know. My father-in-law was in the military, so I talked to him about it quite a bit and certainly appreciate his service to our country. But, just one of those things that I don't know that anything stands out other than when you have an opportunity to meet, the men and women of our armed services and have a chance to talk to them and thank them for what they do. It's pretty awesome to know what they do and the things that they do to protect us.
Absolutely is. All right, Tom, we are out of time. Thanks a lot for joining us in the Edward Jones Chatting Cage, and have fun this weekend in Cooperstown.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for another edition of the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. July 26th, the class of 2015 will get inducted into Cooperstown. And, of course, this weekend, the Hall of Fame Classic coming to you from Doubleday Field in Cooperstown. Join us again next time in the Edward Jones Chatting Cage.